Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A warm welcome to you all for the 54th International Film Festival of India, Google Masterclasses and In Conversation sessions. This is our humble request to put your mobile phones on silent mode. And for this, we give you 20 seconds. Start.
Hindi cinema isn't just a reflection of life. For many, it is life itself. The stories, the icons, the dancers, the soul. Oh, the songs. Hindi film songs are not just songs, they're little philosophies of life. In celebration of this incredible institution, Google Arts and Culture presents a nostalgic trip back in time to revisit our favorite moments in Hindi cinema.
There's an academic to how India reflects very strongly in the cinema story.
Explore a unique retrospective of expertly curated content, rare images in high resolution, interviews with industry legends, virtual tours of iconic spaces, and behind the scenes chronicles. An experience that's immersive, inspiring, and occasionally melodramatic.
पिछले 2 सालों में इंडिया ने गोवा को पोर्चुगीज से आज़ाद करवाया। जिंदगी लगभग 25% जी चुके हैं। लेकिन किया क्या है हमने इससे किसी ने? कुछ नहीं।
Due to some advantage that acting is a real profession in comedy.
बोलना मत अपना मंदिर में नहीं रिवरडेल में हो रिवरडेल को भी याद रखना चाहिए ना Veronica is back.
It was such a really exciting time. Imagine if Cliff Richard had not left Lucknow. I could make music that would reach people, music that would reach. One system of
But it did.
always have fun with you.
Me too. I always have fun with me. I think every girl out there बदल जाएगा आर्ची और कुत्ते की दोस्त कभी सीधे नहीं हुए
बेटी एंड रॉनी हम बेस्ट फ्रेंड आज नहीं तो कल तेरी बात होगी और तेरा क्या होगा एंगल Now we commence the voting for permission to build a grand hotel on the land which is now green park.
अगर हमने आज ये काम जाने दिया तो कल और भी जाएंगे सच में एक पेड़ भी नहीं बचेगा
मतलब हमारे डैड बनाने वाले हैं
What are you talking about?
We're gonna destroy green park. Green park हमारी हिस्ट्री है. That's our trees. That's where we've grown up.
डैड का बुक स्टोर बंद हो रहा है क्योंकि तुम्हारे डैड ने डिसाइड किया कि वो टाउन स्क्वायर के सारे शॉप्स खरीदेंगे तो मैं सोचा एक बड़ा प्लाजा बनाएंगे
जिस प्रॉफिट के बारे में नहीं हो सकती. Some people there's more to life.
अगर मैंने ये आर्टिकल छापा, you will shut us down publication fund.
This not personal.
My friends hate me because of you, so I'm sorry, but it is personal.
We can't give up. Children don't.
एडिसन ने कहा था, कामयाब वो ही इंसान होता है जो 1000 बार हारने के बाद भी एक और बार कोशिश करता है.
Let the games begin.
The master classes and in-conversation sessions for 54 iffi are being conceptualized by Satyajit Ray Film and Television Institute. We also take this opportunity to thank Google for sponsoring these sessions. This year, we will be conducting more than 20 sessions consisting of masterclasses and in-conversation sessions. Today, we have the second session on Netflix original film, The Archie. So this session, we'll be celebrating and chat about the moment of pride it is for India to adopt a global IP into an Indian film. For this session, we have Mr. John Goldwater, the CEO and publisher of Archie Comics, Ms. Zoya Akhtar, recipient of 6 film awards, an Emmy nomination, and a NetTrack award. She is a writer, director, producer with India's official anthology author. Reema Kagti, a dynamic screenwriter and a filmmaker. Mr. Devajan, the founder and CEO of Rapid India and Business Foundation, and Ms. Gita Kapoor Sheikh, the director of Rapid Film Netflix India. We also thank to the speakers who took out their precious time from their busy schedule. On behalf of the organization, we please request you to call on the stage. Please welcome on the stage Mr. Rajiv Masan, a well-celebrated journalist and a cinephile, for moderating the session for today's. I would also request Mr. Ajay Shankar Singh, Chief Control Accountant, Minister of Information and Broadcasting, and Mr. Himanshu Shekhar Katau, Director of SRFEI, to come on the stage and felicitate the dignitaries. Can we have a good photograph, please? Move forward. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Ajay Shankar Singh and Mr. Himanshu Shekhar for the work honors. We now request Mr. Rajiv Prasad to start the session, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Over to Rajiv.
Folks, I really have to start, and I think the room will agree that Archie comics meant so much to, at least to some generations. I'm an '80s kid. I grew up in the '80s, and it was big, wasn't it? I mean, did you agree, guys? How many of you grew up reading the comics? Okay, that's good. Yeah, yeah. You know, I, I think Zoya will agree. I think Reema will agree. The thing about, and I think all of you will agree. The thing about if you were a pre-globalization, if you grew up in a pre-globalization India, it was aspirational. You don't have anything like that. The campus, pop dates, the burgers and the fries and the sodas. It all sort of, it was all this sort of glamorous, a life that you kind of aspired to. Kids that dressed a certain way, spoke a certain way. And I think what the film does, I've watched the film, is I think really what Rima and Zoya have done so beautifully is sort of transpose what was on the page in those comic panels to the screen. It really is an immersive, transported film. And I will admit, and I think a lot of you will as well. I'm in my mid 40s. I don't remember the plot of every comic. I remember how those comics made me feel, and the film does that. It captures that, and I think that is just so beautiful. So more power. What I want to ask Zoya and Rima to begin with is, um, what did it mean to you growing up? What was Archie's for you personally, and what was the pitch that sold you on doing the film?
Archie's for me was my go-to escape. It was the only thing that I could relate to in terms of teenagers. I mean, I was an Enid Blyton fan as well, so I read the famous five to a certain age, and Archie through my life. I don't remember ever not reading Archie comics. It was our portal to the West, I think. It was a different lifestyle because at that time we didn't even really have any real television programming. We had 2 hours on Sunday.
This is pre Bold and Beautiful,
yeah,
pre Santa Barbara.
free everything, and it was also the only thing out there about teenagers. So as a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old, you just aspired to have that gang of friends and have that life. So yeah, so Archie meant the world.
You know? I mean, in terms of what I was like, oh wow, let's do this. And then obviously the next was behind. Yeah. But yeah, so I grew up and at home it was really big. And whenever we got a new Archie, my sister and me would fight about who'd read it first. Yeah. And then my dad would come in full rank and read it first himself. So yeah, it was a big part of my growing up, and that's why it's wonderful for Tiger Baby to do this with Netflix. It's lovely to be here at 18, Sharad and John, because it's been a long journey, and we're kind of reaching the finish line now. The thing about taking something which you love and that means to you and sort of putting your take on it, it's a bit, I would imagine, a bit terrifying that you don't want to screw it up. It's meant something to you. You don't want, and also there's a legacy of fans. What was your into the film? And was it an easy yes to do it?
It was yeah, an easy yes, and then panic. I mean, what am I going to do? But I think my in to this was honestly, I love it. I think it was just love, and I wanted to put that feeling, like what you said, because the comics, they're episodic in nature. And now we are converting it into a 2 hour narrative. But that feeling that you get when you read that comic as a 12-year-old, I just wanted to transmit that feeling to someone that watches the film. And there was an innocence. And I mean, of course, I'm looking at it now from the lens of someone in 2020, at that time 2021, but there was a lost innocence and a lost idealism and a naivety, and it was just wholesome at that time, and to bring that back. And I think also that's also the reason why it connected with so many in India, because it was so innocent. The romances were innocent, the family dynamics were innocent. That I wanted to capture that.
So well. John and Sharad, if I could bring you in, why did it make sense to do this as an Indian film first? From what I understand, it's the first film version of
First feature film ever in Archie Comics history.
Lovely.
And yeah, I have to tell you, it made sense because we had the brilliant Zoya and Reema and their vision, and of course the partnership of Sharad. It just all felt right. And of course, Archie's history for 50 years. It's been such a wonderful part of our company. I just couldn't believe when I took over in 2009 how important India was to Archie. And I found out Archie to India, it was like a match made in heaven, right? So when Sharad and I first started talking, and he said, "Well, we should really consider doing like a movie in India." I was like, "Come on, man, that's not real. We're not really going to try to do this." And he's like, "Oh, yes, we are." So that was the beginning of it all, and then of course Zoya and Reema, and then the cherry on top of the icing, Netflix. So it was just an amazing group of people coming together, and December 7th on Netflix. Please watch. Sorry to have to plug so blatantly, but just being involved with you know the whole Netflix team, they've done an unbelievable job. I mean, exceeded every dream and expectation I could ever hope for. So it's been a wonderful partnership with everybody on the stage. Quite honestly, it's been amazing.
Sharad, you've been a big catalyst in making this happen. Can you talk about that?
Uh, so my love affair with Archie started also as a child. I remember it was the great connector to me and my cousins. So almost every summer when I come to India, I would come with a stack of all the latest Archies, and we would trade with every one of my cousins, and we all had that shared bond, even though we were growing up in two very different parts. And so for me, I always had that deep feeling of this would be my dream in many ways to see this realized because so many people felt that same way. And when I talk to people about how much Archie meant to them, so comics have shaped my life forever. Growing up with Marvel comics, Archie comics, all of them infused who I was. And knowing John for 10 years, it was one of those things where we really early on, it was always this thing of trying to figure out how to do it. And then had this incredible synchronistic meeting where we were talking about something completely different. And she brought up at that meeting when she saw all the comics we were working on around India and everything else. She said, I was always a big fan of Archie comics and grew up with Archie comics. And at that time, the light bulb went off if this would ever happen. If this it would have to happen with her. And her when we had that discussion, I remember that was the moment where the cosmos aligned, really. And I think so many things started to happen from there, where thought became reality, and now we're seeing what hats off to what you and Rima have done because, as you say, it's the feeling. When I see that, it is like literally walking back to an age pre-social media, pre all these things that were supposed to connect us but actually divide us. To a simplicity of connection, friendship, and that feeling you captured so beautifully in this film, which I think is just amazing. So, I think it'll resonate to the world. Speak to the Archie, Riverdale fans, everyone around the world will connect with this in something that's very deep.
I'm going to talk to you about that, about really how this is going to play out. But Ruchika, how did Netflix come on board? How did that partnership happen? And really, what are you really hoping this will do for Indian audience?
Firstly, thank you for having us here, and thank you for the Yes, it's incredible. Everyone's spoken about the Archies has had a personal anecdote, and it's as if on cue. You're like, when I was young, then. And when you're an awkward teenager, millennial, when you're growing up, and you're like, I don't know. friend. That's what the Archie is done to. So I think everyone has a personal story, which is why it's such a personal emotion. And I don't think it's just a franchise. At Netflix, we're fans of entertainment. So when you hear of John, Sharat, the Archies, and then you hear Zoya Akhtar and Reema, you're like, game on. We're doing this. We're going to be the first feature film in the world to adapt this as an IP. And which is why we don't just think this is a big moment for Netflix India. We think this is a big moment for India, where we get a global franchise, we localize it, we keep it more authentic. I mean, if have you seen the film and can't wait for you to watch it on the 7th of December. But Zoya and Reema actually kept the essence. They brought a uniqueness. And this is truly an Indian film that we are waiting to dish out, not just to India, but to the world. And I think the dream that everyone Netflix has is just taking local stories to the world. And we're so happy to kick that off with Zoya, Reema, Sharat, John, and our gang of the Archie. Just a feeling.
So, can you talk about the writing process? So you said it was an easy yes, and then you panicked. How did you find, and you said that the goal was to recreate the feeling that the comics made you feel, how they made you feel it, but to find that um, that sort of direction, what was that like? Um, was that easy to arrive at? Also because there's just so many stories, right? This has to be an establishing story. You have to introduce the characters and create the world, but then it also needs to have a plot.
I think the first thing I think that led us was that the brief was that we keep the characters. We don't we needed them to be Archie and Veronica Lord, Eddie Cooper, and Reginald Mantle. So I think we needed to root them somewhere. Once we found that, and obviously we needed to pick where culturally it's not just the names, right? It's also culturally, So Indian community, it seemed to sit very well.
And the fact that so
Yeah,
much of it is English, right?
yeah. Though in my head, Betty Cooper's Parsi, but we'll see. Yeah, but yeah. So it was about setting them in a community that also had the potential to retain what the original archives had. Because there is music, there's a kind of food, there was a bit, there were a little more, there was dating culture, there were a little more, yeah, the fashion, they were a little more westernized. So it seemed to sit well. And yeah, once we got that, I think it was fun, fun, fun. But before that, it was stressful. It was like, हाँ बोल दिया लेकिन अब क्या करें?
Yeah, the same thing. We needed many things. We wanted to keep it. We knew that it had to be a period film because they've done a contemporary version and they've done it well and it's been hugely successful. So it did make sense to do a repeat of that. So we were like, we should go back to what it meant to us and what the dream was. Go back to that dream. So it is an adaptation of a fictional play. So we are fictionalizing a fictional place. Okay, let's get that real. How do we root it in India? And honestly, the two places that we did think of were either the hill stations with the Anglo community or Goa. Those were the two communities that had a real fit because there's a Christian base, so the names could remain, the culture, like she said, the food, the fashion, the westernization, the dances, the ease. There's a relaxed sense to it. And but Goa had been done many times on Indian screen and done very well. So we were like, this is new to explore. And if you look at the comic is very green. There's a lot of green, there's a freshness in that comic. So to be able to capture that, and we said, let's do, the hill stations like Makalski Ganj, Landor, where all this architecture exists and these worlds exist. Let's base it there. Once we have that, we go, okay.
John, you have a personal connection with the Archies, of course. Tell me, what are you hoping this film will achieve in terms of sort of strengthening and perhaps taking the legacy forward?
Well, one of the things that Zoya and Reema did so brilliantly is, and we touched on it a little bit, but it can't be said enough, is they kept the integrity of what Archie is all about, which is friendship, family, community. I mean, that's foundational what we're about, right? And so it's interesting because we had this TV show Riverdale, which was pretty successful, and but that was just one heightened version of what the Archies were, right? What this film is, what our new film is, it's really goes back to the roots and the beginning of what this whole IP is all about. And what I'm hoping, of course, is that because this is a more authentic version of what art is, that through the wonderful power of Netflix, people around the world really get to learn and know and love what Archie is all about. Because it's in the film. It's all there. All the characters are there. And I have to tell you, it may be an overused word, but it's authentic. That's what I love the most about this movie. It's authentic to what the Archies are all about. And I'm hoping people around the world love it and embrace it as much as I do. And my whole Archie team in New York loves this. So, from Archie Ground Zero, the real people who are going to really take a look at it, oh my God, they've fallen in love with this thing. They really have.
Zoya and Reema, when you're writing this, is there a pressure, or maybe pressure is not, it has a bit of a negative connotation. Are you writing it saying we need to make this authentic, we need to tell the story, but it needs to work for a global audience? In that, is it different from writing a gully boy or writing a Bollywood film?
Firstly, we co-wrote this with Aisha Dimitri, and she's not here, but we co-wrote it with Aisha Dimitri, so we just want to bring her here. Yeah. No, this has a multi layers, not just like it needs to work for India and the world, because you are on Netflix. It's going to go to 190 countries. You are I'm representing here and I'm representing the Indian film industry, and I need to speak a language that can connect to anyone. Like we went to Brazil for 2 days and it was insane, the fans. So you do, yes, you are aware that it has to connect to home base, but it's on a platform that goes to these countries and it needs to hold up, you know. The second thing is we are talking about a generation, we're talking about 1964, but that needs to connect to Gen Z, which is 2023. That's another distance you have to cover. So there were many that you have to connect to Archie fans that are going to come in there for nostalgia, and they're going to come in there to judge you. And then you're going to connect to people that do not know Archie at all, and they're going to be like, okay, so what is this? Does this hold up? So there were a lot of boxes to tick.
How does one do that?
Watch the film, your head down, work and hope for the best. Work.
A lot of writing and a lot of layering. Were you always clear that again, maybe for the fans, I love that Jughead's crown is now the variable. There are these little nods which are, Dilton's spectacles, Archie's orange hair. Were you what was your plan in terms of how visually, how did you want to take what was on the page and put it on screen? Were there a lot of conversations about that?
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to keep the haptics to all those elements without making them unbelievable. So we tried everything on Jughead. We tried the OG crown. We even tried a Manali topi. We tried everything, but then also we have to see what the actor is best in. And but we knew he had to have headgear. Betty had to have lighter hair, but we didn't want to go blonde with it, and we wanted to keep it in the colors of the Anglo community. You know what I mean? So they have from light brown to brown to, so keep it a little bit real and fits into what we're doing, but give a active to what the original characters were. So Veronica with her raven, black hair. So we did that. And the milkshakes but like my production designer did not make it American, the Delhi. If you look at Pop Taste, it's like a cafe that you would find in a hill station or like an Irani joint or one of those things more than an American Delhi. So we've taken elements that were very that are completely iconic to the comic, but moved them and adapted them in a way.
John, were you? I have to be honest here. It's huge opening this out to a filmmaker from a different part of the world. Were you nervous at all? Are they gonna? She says she loves it. Is she gonna do justice?
I really wasn't nervous at all, to be honest with you. You know, before I even met Zoya for the first time and Reema, I knew about them, of course. I mean, these are extraordinarily talented filmmakers on a global scale, and to really turn it around the other way, candidly, I was honored that these folks wanted to do the Archie movie. So for me personally, I was like, oh my God, Zoya and Rima want to do Archie? I'm in. I mean, with full 100% confidence.
Yeah, but we were also like, oh my God, Archie wants us to make that.
Can you talk about casting? And was that a big process? Did you test?
That was a big process because the characters are so iconic that we knew we didn't want established stars or established names because they come with an image. The audience already has a relationship with them. We didn't want that. We knew we wanted completely new faces that would come and fill these rather big shoes or the characters have. I worked with Nandini Kent and Karan Mali, and the I think the casting process took about 8 to 12 months, and we tested and we needed also to be 17. So that really cuts your, yeah. So I think they tested every kid that wanted to act, and tested certain kids for multiple roles. We saw what the essence was, and so you basically look for nascent talent, and then you look for if there is something about that character, one quality that you can't put your finger on about that character in the personality of the actor, your home, and the physicality of course. A little physical match your home.
I know that there's a lot of excitement because some of these kids are kids of famous actors. But I have to say, having watched the film, what I thought was really interesting, and you go into that kind of film, if you've seen a Student of the Year, you see any of these films which are launch films for actors, you go into them thinking of them as launch films. And I have to say, when I saw Archie's, what I thought was lovely is you're not launching anyone. You're telling this story, and I think that's beautiful. It's never distracting from the story that you want to tell and the world that you create. Was that important for you? That
I think that I think as a filmmaker, depends on the kind of what the tone is. If you're making a film and the characters larger than life in a way, then you introduce them on screen in a particular way now. But I haven't made that kind of film yet. So for me, like I have to introduce the characters. You have to bite the character. It's not about who that actor is. That actor is for me to know. But for you, it should be the character.
why was the musical the way to go? It's a great choice.
Because that's our tradition. And that's our film language, our film grammar, our syntax. And there's no way we're going to make a film for the globe, especially an IP like Archie, and not add what we do very well. And so to weave that into the story, and that's been our tradition since oral storytelling to theater to cinema. That's how Indians like to tell their stories, and it was important for me to use that and weave that in for us. Just to add to that, music is so universal, and we've seen that with Baba Boom and Sono. There are chartbusters across the globe. We got our team writing in from Spain, and we got the Latam team saying, "Hey, we're putting this up," and I'm like, "Yeah, we dubbed it." So it doesn't matter. Music has no language. We don't need to dub it. We're just gonna go out with it. And I think that is it's such a core of how universal the Archie is and how Zoe and Rima have approached it. Because using iconic characters, using timeless Betty, Veronica, and Archie, and friendships and heartbreak, and then saying, let's step up the music, and then you've got a stamp that says it's made in India for the world.
That's what I want to ask Ruchika, Shahid, and John about. This is one of those incredible collaborations where you've got a global IP and you've adapted it for an Indian audience, made Indian film out of it. Um, is this is this potentially a way to go, even with newer IPs with more projects? Do you see this being something that could be exciting? Because traditionally, what tends to happen is an American IP will become will we've seen it with Marvel, we've seen it with DC. They'll tend to be American films, they'll be Hollywood films. But you chose to do this, you chose to sort of make an Indian film out of it. Has this been an interesting sort of project, if you like, and you see you see yourself doing things like this more often?
Honestly, this is just the beginning. When I see what these folks have created, oh my God, it inspires me to continue down this road. And you mentioned Marvel. I mean, we're the first global IP company to do something like this. And from our perspective, I didn't see it as at all as a risk. To me, this was natural. This is what must be, what should be going forward. And this could be done, for the Indian audience, and you could localize it for a Latin American audience eventually, and so on and so forth. So from our perspective, this is really just the first step in many, many more iterations like this. And of course, hopefully, many more iterations with Zoya and Reema and Netflix. Hopefully.
I would echo that. I think this is going to open up a lot of other people outside of the industry who are looking at seeing the potential of this. Talent is talent. And there is so much amazing talent sitting in this country, ready to shake up the world. And clearly, Zoya and Rima are the embodiments of that talent. Right? But we see this in our comics, we see this in the animation work we do. All of these amazing, young, creative, passionate people that can stand toe to toe with the greatest creators in the world. And there is no doubt that I think this will break open a whole opportunity for a lot of great ideas that are sitting there. But we're sitting in one of the greatest film markets, the greatest creative communities in the world. So to adapt for a global stage now, I think it's going to be the first thing. I think we've broken a new paradigm, as John says, with this. And to his credit, to take the risk with an idea and to you guys to bring it to fruition.
I mean, plus one to what the two of them have said. And while it does open up doors for so many more global franchises coming to India, I think what's essential is for it to be authentic and to come together organically. When you watch the film, the attention to detailing, I mean, I don't think they've touched upon it, and we're constantly going to tease you like when you watch the film because there's that much in it. But it took a lot of coming together, and I think Archie is going to open the floodgates. And I'm not so sure about the kind of coming together for every IP, but it really needs makers and storytellers and creators to put their finger to it and say, this is it. And this is something that feels local. And this is something that while it does feel local, it will talk globally to everyone. Yeah, I think
Well,
it's
and
that,
also,
that marriage.
I would just add to Netflix. I mean, this couldn't have existed 10 years ago. Netflix has created a global platform where something can be launched on December 7th here in India and connect instantly to a global audience around the world. They can discover it, find it, and they've really shaped the global audience to appreciate global content no matter where it's from. So, I think Netflix is the perfect home for something like this.
100% agree.
Shika, can you speak to the fact that I'm guessing from what you're saying that Netflix is treating this as a global release. Every film's a global release that's on Netflix. But I know that when it comes to a local indie film, it typically it needs to break out locally, and then it tends to travel. And I'm not sure how much you market a Hindi language film in other territories. Is this one being treated as a global film that's being marketed just as aggressively in the other markets as well?
Absolutely. Actually, this is we treat it as our biggest local film, which is why it deserves its place in the sun globally. And I think because Zola and Rima have nailed it, I think it's India's film going to the world. While it is a global IP and a global franchise, and we're very proud of it. But when the Archie goes to the world, it is made in India. It's made by Zola Rima. It's presented by Netflix, and we're extremely proud of it. Like it's not a film that you look at and like this is one of those cultural films that's come out of India and is breaking out. It genuinely talks to a large audience. And I think that was the ambition when it started. When we watched the film, my God, we were like, we've got to take you to Brazil. And we didn't know how connecting flights operate there. We're Indians. I'm like, how do you get there? Oh, it's 30 hours, let's do it. So I think we've really done that heavyweight lifting because they gave us material to feed off that.
Been dubbed in many more
Many,
languages.
many languages.
So the actors, did they connect with the comics? Did Archie's mean a lot to them? Did they know what the gift that you were giving them?
No, they found out. Like some of them,
I'm guessing their parents probably
yeah,
were more
it is
excited,
actually,
right?
some of them had read it, some of them knew their parents were saying, and some did not know. But when they went home and they were like the Archies, then they realized the magnitude of this. And now they're all Archie heads, all of them. Yeah.
What was the shoot like?
Shoot was, I mean, we spent 4 to 5 months in Ooty, and it was unbelievable. And you realize how much you miss green spaces in the city because we were in the middle of these trees and these hills, and you worked, you shot 12-hour days, but you didn't get tired. I mean, it's the shoot. There are many variables. We had a lot of problems with weather, and I mean, it's like everything.
You have a favorite memory? Remember you on set? Yes, you were. Not all the time, but I did go down. It was Murphy's Law. So everything that could go wrong went wrong. So it's logistics. It is a big cast with crew. Then there was COVID. Then there was, we were going to another country to shoot a part of it, and there was civil strike. So then we had to move. The rains came, they broke some record of 100 years and came early. It always
Whatever
happens.
had to happen,
Yeah.
happened.
You
Actor
know?
got COVID,
Yeah.
cameraman got COVID, costume department, full costume department got COVID. Yeah,
Yeah, and the
true.
rest of it was like, it's Zoya has very fond memories of the shoot, and I'm glad one of our shoot. I was very harassed throughout. When
Love
you're
shoot.
producing, it is a different cup of tea. So yeah. The thing about the film, and I want to ask what that's like on the set. There is, like you absolutely correctly said, there is an innocence, there is a naivety, there's an idealism. It almost harks back to a time before. Those things just sadly don't exist in the world anymore. But when you're making that with a cast that doesn't move that time, uh, what's it like on the set? I mean, the beauty of the film is that it's just such a simple story. These are just such simple characters.
Yeah, like the story is really simple. Their conflicts, their heartbreaks, everything is very, very simple and not very big, high stakes or high drama. But there were many funny things that happened on set. So there's one shot, and Betty, who's being played by Rishi Kapoor, has to pick up the needle and put it on the vinyl, and which is the record player. So there, I'm behind the camera, and I see her picking it up and putting it into the center where the paper. I'm like, what are you doing? And she's like, isn't that where the music comes from? I'm like, no. Okay. And you realize how young they are. And Archie had to pick up the phone and dial. And it was then he's like, so what do I dial first and then pick up? I'm like, what? Okay. And I'm like, how old am I? He's like, I was like, you've never used it. He's like, no. I said, but haven't you seen it in movies? And he was like, no. And it's like, it's really cumbersome, man. This is like a stunt. Like things like that. Because then you realize how the world has just changed.
Yeah. Did they, by the end of it, and now I'm guessing, with Netflix putting their strength behind it and sort of making it this massive global release, have they realized what they're lucky to be a part of?
Course, of course. I mean, and it's like it's not seven; it's actually nine kids. There's also Moose and Mint, but they don't have the main stories, so they're not, But for them, it's like it's their first outing. So all of them, and they're a big gang, so it's very exciting. They're very nervous. We're 2 weeks away now. Suddenly, it's hitting them that this is it. So yeah, it's a big deal.
And we are lucky to have them too because they've been a great bunch. And even though they're Gen Z, there's something about all of them together. I mean, apart from being seriously hardworking and doing this so well, they're also a really tightly gang that has the qualities of the original artists. When I was watching it, one of the again, it's you're seeing Miss Grundy and you're seeing Mr. Weatherby. I mean, those just take you back, and they're sort of you instantly have a smile because it just reminds you of of your best years of your life. I suppose. Were there things you knew you definitely didn't want to leave out? Were there characters? Did you? I can't even remember. Are there characters that were there more characters in the comics that are not in the films? In the
Yeah, yeah,
film,
yeah. There are characters that are not in the film. They have different IPs and stuff. Like, no, there's Sabrina. Josie and the
Josie and the
Pussycats.
Pussycat.
There are a lot of Cat Clayton.
Yeah.
Chuck. I mean, there are characters that are not in the film, and I didn't realize. One, I started making this. Wherever I go, people ask me about Moose.
Yeah.
Where's Moose?
Big
Have
Moose.
you left Moose out? How could you? My mother has sent me a voice message from Kunur after seeing the trailer, and she's like, I mean, you know best, but I just want to know why have you not shown Moose in the trailer? I was like, Moose is a big deal.
Yeah. You know, I think Goose and Jughead, these are also sort of they've become sort of part of the lexicon, right? I mean, like you call the big, the big moose is your sort of himbo, and Jughead the guy. I was always Jughead. Was this also in many ways sort of living your own childhood and
Completely, completely. I mean, it was an opportunity to actually go back to that feeling, to be able to capture that feeling and to share it somehow. But yeah, it's dreamy. I mean, it had to be. So even though you've taken it, it's a fictional town, Riverdale. You wanted to have like quasi reality, quasi dream quality because that's what it was.
all of you, and maybe this question is premature, but are there plans to sort of expand the world? There plans to do spin-offs, sequels, turn this into a franchise?
The ideal, but it really depends on I think how people respond also.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, do we want to? Hell yeah, but you're going to tell us if we're going to. So we're excited. Our ambitions are pinned up high. We're sipping our milkshake and our very own cocktail.
But I do think what they have created is a world. I mean, anyone who sees this wants to see more of this world, wants to be in this world. I mean, I wish I could visit this world. So I think that any successful property that does have that ability, it is about really creating a connection where someone goes behind the story and what happened. And I think that's so beautifully done, and you've seen it. So
What I also think is interesting is that on Netflix, on the same platform, and similar timeline, you can have the Riverdales and the Sabrinas, which are a hyper real sort of universe take on those stories or similar characters, and you have the hark back to what the Archies authentically were. Um, was that important for you, John? That there can be various iterations, there can be various sort of ways to tell these stories and to bring these characters to the screen.
It's so important. It just shows, one thing about these characters because they're so well known. Everyone has their own take on their own feeling for these characters, right? Whether you relate to Betty, Veronica, Jughead, whomever, you feel who they are. And one of the things that for us was so important is I always felt as long as you maintain the integrity, the DNA, so to speak, of who these characters were, you can put them in many different settings. But as long as Archie still was Archie, right? And Jughead was still Jughead, he might be modern and he might, look like, a very handsome young man, who's our lead in the Riverdale show. But he's still Jughead, right? And that's what it's all about. And that's what the Archie movie is. These characters, when I saw the movie, I was blown away. I don't want to say stunned in the greatest way of how the DNA was so intact of who these characters were, and that carries through from the Archies to Riverdale to Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. It's all the same as long as you keep the authenticity and the DNA of the characters. And Zoya and Reema did that so beautifully, and it is really important. And now, also all our stuff's going to be on Netflix, which is pretty cool. So very happy about that.
Yeah, I'm so glad we have it all the way. But also, I think that just kind of talks to the diversity and variety that actually rests on it. No two titles, even though the Archies live in a fictional town called Riverdale, Archies doesn't look anything like Riverdale. And that's the beauty, really, of we're all for diversity, we're all for variety. There's something for everyone, there's something for everyone.
The other thing, and I think some of you who are maybe of a similar age will sort of maybe relate to. I remember also the thing about the comics was that it felt like your own thing. It felt like something that was. I know Reema said her dad would borrow it. Like parents did. In fact, it was almost something that for a little while, I don't know. I don't know if you all anyone has had this similar experience. I remember parents saying you shouldn't read Archie. Not that they meant it. Your language will get spotted. The slang, and as Indian kids, as Indian parents, I think you always want your kids to have. There's always pressure to speak English well, and because it's slang, they were like your parents would say don't. Every kid was secretly reading. And you're right. Probably my parents were secretly reading as well. I think it really feels like something that was yours. Just it meant something to you. You grew up reading those comics, and it wasn't something that you necessarily shared. It's not, a good comparison would be something like a Ramayana or a Mahabharata, which you watched together as a family growing up. This was your thing. This was just exclusively yours. And I think that's why, at least certainly kids that grew up in the 80s and 90s
I mean, like my mom did read it secretly, but when I was reading it, she said, "Very good. My child's a reader." So I think across generations that really changed, and it's incredible that I think any of the millennials like let it going and getting the Archie comic book, exchanging it for like you've got that edition, I've got this one, and then you move into Gen Z, Alpha, all of these new generations, and we've all heard of the Archie. It means it's still injected in. And the beauty of actually Zoya and Reema's writing in the film is it cuts across generations. It's a family entertainment. It's multi-generational. It goes deeper and beyond it's not a, when I say deeper, it goes beyond friendship, goes into you're never too young to change the world, and that really brings in the family. So I know when we saw the film the first day in the film, I said, it just feels like a warm, fuzzy hug.
that is
And
exactly.
that's what makes it so special. Like you've got characters that millennials could identify with it. You'd want to turn to for nostalgia, and then a generation turns to the same. Oh, this is what the fuck is all about, and then suddenly you've got a family coming together and enjoying it. And I think that's the beauty of how the franchise has kind of aged and how they've adapted.
And such incredible music
Oh yeah.
that really, no matter where you are in the world, this music is going to be something that I think is. And to your point, Zoya, before about so much of the world has not seen how amazing a part of that film ecosystem music is, and I think this will be something that just kicks the door right open for the world to see. Um,
Profile actually the music and also sort of staging the number because the dancers are great.
I love shooting songs. I really enjoy it, and I collaborate with different choreographers. I had Bosco Caesar on this, and Ganesh Hegde, and it's a completely different discipline, and it's a different language, of communicating. So I really enjoy doing it. This was a space where I could put up set pieces. Like we needed each one to have its own tone, have its own what you call have its own grammar and have its own vibe. So that was really fun to do. Ankur Tiwari was a music supervisor, and I worked with Shankar S. Lloyd that they were born to do this film. Dot gave some music, and then Ankur and the Islanders did some music. It was great. We also have some background tracks from a band called the Cavaliers from the 70s, the Bangalore Indians. And yeah, so they had cut a few albums. So we have two tracks of theirs, which is really fun to discover and include. Yeah.
I'm being told that I don't have a lot of time, so I know we're going to open it out to move for questions, but I have some house rule. Only questions about the film, and I get to shut it down if it's a stupid question. So if you have questions, you can raise your hand and we'll send a mic. I think we might be able to get a few questions in. Maybe the folks there. Do we have mics in the room? And question, not long rambling opinion.
Hi, I'm Abhirupa. So what I wanted to ask was in 2022 when we have like slightly evolved sensibilities about what we want to see on screen. I wanted to know from Zoya and Reema, trying to create a world that has already been established. Um, how much of impact or relatability would it create? Like, what did you anticipate? Because we have no idea. We'll find out. Uh, no, I mean, all the things you mentioned were the challenges. We knew that we basically wanted to do a very young adulthood, and we were very clear about that. And we wanted to do it for people of the age group we were when we were reading it. And naturally, the generation that has read it at that age and could be our age now will still be the audience for it because that's nostalgia and going down memory lane. But if today's kids could feel what we felt, a 12-year-old today could feel the same way, it would be fresh.
Yes, my question to Zoya Akhtar. How there is opportunity for Indian cinema to go world cinema? That you are making Indian cinema, which is going to world. How are the future opportunity for us to capture world market?
I think the lines have really blurred. I think the world is watching everything now. With streaming, we are seeing stories from all over the world. We've crossed that language barrier. People are happier to read subtitles. There are dub versions. The streaming platforms are making it easier for you to find out about other cultures, hear their stories, see them, know them, and I think people are getting more and more comfortable. And I think there's a realization that no matter how many differences there are, the similarities are more. The human experience is more. So everything else becomes backdrop. So yes, you may be culturally different, you may dress differently, you may speak a different language, but human-wise, you also feel love and feel jealous and feel sad and cry, and it's the same. And have ambition, and it's the same experience. So that I think is coming out, and we've always made films. We love our films, and our films are definitely getting watched more and more. We can see it. We can see it happening. I mean, even the insane success of RRR, which is so authentically, from a particular milieu. I mean, it's there. People are interested. No, like I said, it took time. It took a lot of audition process, seeing them together, seeing how they look together, how they not. It's when they're all new. It takes a bit of time, but I didn't rewrite anything for anyone. I mean, they just fit. But no, sometimes you do. Sometimes it's a good question. Sometimes you have to do it because the actor ticks a lot of boxes, but certain things may not work. So you rewrite it, or they bring something else to the table that's exciting, and you rewrite it. We didn't do that much on this one. No, this is a feature, and we see how it goes. Let's see how the first one goes.
Hello, man. My question is for you. Before I talk about Archie, this is Talaash. I watched it many times, but there are some things like when you watch, you question yourself. So that was with Talaash. That are there anything like goals or spirit? I don't know. It has
No,
stayed with
there's
me.
nothing supernatural, but I think anything worth watching must, it's not just the characters who have arc. I think the viewers
must also have an arc. So I do hope that Archie hits that spot. But no, there'll be no ghosts coming up at your life.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. The thing is, that film has stayed with me for a long time. And that's why, ma'am, I admire you a lot. You're also. Thank you.
My question is to Joanna and Reema ma'am. Actually, I want to know what kind of challenges you face as a producer director to balance between your creative aspect and the commercial.
I think that Zoya and I, from the beginning, we always follow our creative minds. We don't think too much about the commerce and the business. When we are writing, I'm writing for myself and her because I feel like if I like it, then somebody else has a chance of liking it. If I don't like it, I cannot expect another person to like it. So yeah, I mean, of course, filmmaking is an expensive art form, and you have to think about the commerce. But I don't think that really makes us do things. I don't know. What do you think? You're a better judge of our work than we are. Do you feel we keep commerce in mind? I'm just asking. I'm also curious. That's why.
So if I wasn't keeping commerce in mind, I won't have a job. Yeah, looks like I don't.
I mean, you have to justify yourself. Yeah. But yeah, we understand. We take what you say, and we do keep it in mind. It is important to us that partners are also, whatever they bring, the support that they bring in terms of finance and stuff like that, it should work for everybody. And like Zoya said, we think maybe we got something right, otherwise we'd be out of jobs.
I am Mario Pimen. I want to ask the moderators and the panelists. Like John had said, each character is relatable to everyone. So I want to ask all the panelists and moderator, which character is your personal favorite and the most relatable to you?
Well, I mean, it's really hard because I grew up with these characters. They're all my brothers and sisters, so I kind of love them all equally. But if I had to pick one, I guess it would just be Archie because he's the center of everything. He's everything revolves around Archie, and not just that, he has a good heart. And whatever trouble he may get in, or whatever situations, his good heart, his good nature, it never changes. And I just love that. So I would have to say, if I had to pick somebody, it would be
Obviously, we love all of them equally. But I think once Zoya said that and Reema said that they certain characters that we kind of find ourselves in. So when I saw Dilton, I was like, that person saying stuff and almost not having time because of that. But Dilton fits in very well. I think what they've done is beautifully put in these differences that still hold us together. So I loved it.
My personal favorite is Javed.
I am a Jughead fan as well, the ultimate iconoclast, I feel. And Mahir has done such a wonderful job of acting with that was phenomenal.
I also have a rotation. Every day it's a new one. But if I had to pick one, Veronica Lodge.
Yeah, jug it for me. Jug it for life. Well, I've been told that's all the time we have, and that's a great question to actually end on. Thank you for being a spectacular audience, but thank you to every one of you.
Thank you.
Thank all the
Thank you
guys for
so
the
much.
films. But last, I'm told we don't
One
have
more,
time.
sir.
What do you think, sir?
Yes, sir.
I am very lucky to act in the Archie's film. I got a call one day prior. You have to fly to Uttarakhand. So I was there at Coimbatore. Yeah. So I am actually railway guard. And
Oh, are you at the railway station?
thank you very much. I think I was just like something I was wondering why I was called from Mumbai all the way. And next day only the ticket came online and I was flown there. So thank you.
Wow, thank you.
Thank you very much. And I am also into acting and I act the body double for Bamar Irani.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause to John Goldman, Zoya Akhtar, Reema Kagti, Mira Nair, Ruchika Kapoor, and Rajesh Ansel for giving us very well for this wonderful session. We also thank the 54th International Film Festival of India and Satyajit Ray Film and Television Institute for organizing this wonderful session. We also thank you for the audience for being with us in this wonderful experience. Please be with us for the next session. Thank you.